afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining in Inside Out. This is Carol Ann McCormick, and we're going to wait just another minute. There are some people still coming into the Zoom, and then we'll come back to you with Meet the Residents. Yep.
Yes. Great time to wet your whistle before you answer some of these questions. Right. Good thinking.
Okay, well, I think we can start. I bet people have all come in and zoomed in with us. So thank you for joining us. I'm Carol Ann, and let me introduce to you who we have today. To my left is Tiffany Peters, and you'll learn more from Sydney shortly, and Don Connolly. Please call him Don. And you'll also be learning about Don from Don today. Some of you know Helen Cahill, if you've watched our series before, or if you've been to Knollwood, and Helen is with us today. She has missed out on the last couple of webinars.
Yep.
You can see her.
But thank you for joining. Today is one of our episodes that we try to do quarterly to allow people to meet people who live here. Of course, we encourage you to come in person and meet people in person. Yes. But you will see other recorded episodes of past residents who have come on to Inside Out by going onto the Knollwood website. There are a few people who are tuning in today for the first time. So let's move on. I just want to do a very brief overview of Knollwood for any first-time visitors. We're in a lovely area of DC here, and Knollwood's history goes back many years, about 60 years now. We are a nonprofit community originally founded as the Army Distaff Foundation for financially challenged Army widows. Over the years, Knollwood has evolved. We're not just for widows, we allow men. People can be Army, they could be Navy, they could be
any of the sending form services or government,
or they could be
service.
Landscape designers, or
they could have family
teachers.
that lives in DC.
They could have family that was in the service.
Yeah.
So Knollwood has evolved over the years, but we still have our great same setting. We have our same really good mission, and we are for people 62 plus. And if you haven't been here, we hope you come visit. If you want our information, we're not going to be talking about Knollwood today, but you can email us or call us, and you can email through our website and get you a packet of information. But we do have 5 levels of living at Knollwood. The biggest is independent living, and that is where Sydney and Don live, not together. Don has a wife. Sydney has 2 cats. And the largest neighborhood at Knollwood is independent living, but we also have skilled nursing, which has inpatient rehab, long-term care, and long-term memory care. And then we have assisted living. So that's all at Knollwood. So let's go on and start to talk about
get to know our residents.
Yeah, get to know. Yeah. I have to tell everybody something interesting now. When Sydney was asked to be a part of this interview, she said she's going to be glad to help. These interviews, she's watched some taped ones before, and they were essential in her choice of Knollwood for her home. She enjoyed e-meeting Jean, Esther, Jim, and Judith before making her choice. So I thought that was really neat to share. So let's just ask Sydney, first of all, you'll both do first Sydney, then Dawn. We'll do ladies first. And if you wanted to say how long you've lived here and where did you live most previously?
My name is Tiffany Peters. I've lived here about 3.5 months now, I believe. I came in August of 2021. For the past 5 years, I've been living primarily in my RV, and working in state parks as a campground host volunteer, which is a great way to spend retirement. I thought that I would stay there for good and continue doing that. But there came a point where it got to be just a little more than I wanted to be doing physically. And the other thing that happened is that COVID sort of got to me because I was living in places where I didn't have family or close friends. So I got a little lonely. And I started thinking about life plan communities and calling around. And eventually that landed me with Helen. And Helen described Knollwood very accurately to me. I was not able to come and visit. I think when we first started, there weren't even, I guess we were on planes again, but I was not feeling like I wanted to fly. And so all of my tours of Knollwood were done by video camera. And when I did arrive here to move in, I had not physically been here before. So I think I said to my sister, what if it's not the way it appeared on the video? And she said, well, how could it be different? And I said, well, it might smell funny. And then she called me the next day and she said, so does it smell funny? And I said, no, not at all. It is lovely. It's even better, honestly, better than I expected. I love the public spaces. And I have a small apartment, but I tell my friends I live in this huge area with lots of big living rooms and big dining rooms and lots of outdoor space. And I have, the only part that I'm responsible for caring for is my apartment.
Yeah.
I went farther than you wanted me to on that one. So that's it for now.
No, that's okay. It's good
Thank
to
you.
let people know about the experience and how many shared spaces there are. It's a huge asset of Knollwood.
Yes.
You may live in a smaller apartment or a larger one, but you can gather with your friends in a variety of areas across the community.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, Don, where did you live most previous to
Well,
Knollwood?
Barbara and I been married 60 years now. And we met at the Naval Hospital, now called Walter Reed, in the late 50s. She was a Navy nurse and I was a civilian working there. However, I had 2 years active duty in the Coast Guard and I stayed in the Coast Guard Reserve. So we have lived ever since then, all those through 60 years, in the greater vicinity of Bethesda. So we are totally different from you, Sydney. And because one of the things we looked for was people would say, when I did retire from my work, where are you going to move to? And I'd say, why do I want to move? My life is here. You know, I don't want to move to Florida where I don't know anybody and that kind of thing, just because it might be warmer sometimes. And so we just stayed here. We had houses in Bethesda. They got a little bigger when the kids got until they grew up. And then I realized that my wife was having some knee and hip problems. And I thought we have lots of stairs in our lovely house that we really enjoyed. So we moved into an apartment in 2003 in Friendship Heights, which is 2.5 miles from here, which is, I call Bethesda South. And so even though it has a Chevy Chase address. And then about 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, I realized that maybe we needed to be in a place where there was more opportunities for some health care, plus some food care, and, you know, the idea of a retirement community. And so we looked around and we explored a lot of places here. And this place just hit me. I mean, the fact that it was military, you know, that was nice, but it wasn't the big draw to me, and to us, but it was the fact, what a lovely size. There's some places, you know, get 2,000 people in independent living. I said, we both looked at those and said, no, thank you, this is too much. And some which seemed, I don't know, a little stuffy. And when we came here, I came by myself the first time because Barbara wasn't feeling so good. I said to her, went back I think we should go tomorrow and go back and look at this. So we did. And we both agreed, and we looked at and showed us whatever was available. And fortunately, the one that we liked was on the list, people, but nobody was ready to move. So they said, so we were able to move in. That was in April. We moved in the end of July.
Okay. Yeah, most people do take a few months once they select before they come. Yeah, looks like we may have gotten a question in. So bring it on over. Thanks. Okay, so somebody is asking, and we'll have both of you answer this. What do you like most about Knollwood in your new experience?
Oh my, well, I hope we have a couple of hours for me to answer the question. All right, let me start with the very beginning. I liked the welcome that I got when I arrived here. Everybody that I met, staff and residents alike, were wanting to meet me. I was pretty overwhelmed because it was a lot of people and I was trying to keep all their names straight. And I made a few mistakes, but I just felt immediately that that it was a genuine welcome. It wasn't they weren't putting it on. And okay, so there's one. I love the setting, the grounds, which you can see a picture of, I believe, on your screen there. And right across the street from Knollwood, I mean, literally go down to the curb and cross the street, is a huge city park, which is actually a national park by designation. So I was looking for a place where I could be close by a city that would have, where I would have access to performances and museums and cultural life, which is very important to me. But I've been living in state parks and, with groves of turkeys and flocks of turkeys and groves of redwood trees and foxes and all of that. And it turns out now all that is literally across the street from me. It's not, this part of the park is not improved very much. It has pathways through it, but other than that, it's just a natural wooded space, quite beautiful and very relaxing. So that's number 2. Let's see, the activities, the food, let's see, activities, food. Did I mention the staff? They have somebody for just about everything that we might need. And if I can't figure out who to call, I just call one person and say, who should I call for this? And they seem to know. So we'll just stop there, but pretty much everything is the answer to the question.
That's great.
Now, how about you, Don? What do you like most about
Well,
Knollwood?
you're saying most, you're sort of supposed to make it one thing. And-
Oh, sorry. It's okay.
No, and like Sydney said, she's really covered a lot of the setting, which is what you first hit when you come here. And you sit and you're in a residential community and you feel like, you're really not transplanting too far from anywhere if you have been in a residential community. And Rock Creek Park right across, it's bigger than Central Park, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
It stretches all the way from downtown, all the way to the end of the district. Anyway, just quickly. But then the welcoming of the people, there was several people welcomed us to, offer information and assistance and making sure we got to the right place for meals and when and all that sort of thing. And each floor has a gathering. In fact, we have one tonight at 4:00 where the members of the floor, if they want to, they go, we call it a happy hour. Some people bring something, some don't. And so somebody came by, knocked on our door the first time we moved in. My wife and I were exhausted. They said, we're having our happy hour now, if you'd like to come over. And I said, thank you, but we're so tired. But there it was the welcome. One thing is that the medical care, the health care, let's put it that way, that you can get assistance in. There's rehab service. And I was aware that because my wife needs of things that she wasn't walking like she should have before, it was so nice to be able to have that here, and a place with a reputation that, you know, people, is quite good. And so in fact, right now she's down there
At outpatient rehab?
at your outpatient rehab here at Knollwood. And she's been doing that for a number of months, and her walking is better and so forth. So all those things, plus if I say activities, in fact, there's so much going on, but you're so welcome. And one of the things that I enjoyed, and I was welcomed in right like that, was some of the performing things that we were doing. Of course, COVID put an end to those, but we had 2 shows in the first 2 years I was here.
Oh, you mean you put on?
And we put on 2 shows,
Theatrical.
theatrical things, singing and a little dancing. The last one was the Roaring Twenties, all music from the 20s, and then dances, Charleston, and things like that that we did, and such. So there's a lot, and I tell you what, anytime there's a lecture and anything, there's always a little celebration afterwards.
I noticed that.
And so that's always fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Too many things that wasn't most, you can't say most, like Sydney says, there's just too much.
Most is now mostest. Mostesses.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple more questions coming in here. Okay. Sydney and Don, what are some suggestions for someone who's going to move to Knollwood to do to prepare for the move?
Well, I didn't sell my RV right away, but I think that's one of the things people do is try to downsize their home somewhat and take care of it being sold. That's something I believe you all help people with. I remember there was a webinar about that at the time I was moving, and I thought, well, it's a good thing I don't need that one.
Yeah.
So there's that. Touring, I think visiting, if possible, would be lovely. I have had the privilege of having lunch with a couple of people who are considering moving here. And the sales department just wasn't involved in the lunch at all. So we were invited. Well, that's true. You did buy lunch. That's true. But people were able to ask the questions that they really wanted to ask. And I think that the ones I met enjoyed that. Let's see. Do you like living in a city and not feeling like you're in a city? That's a very good way of thinking about it. So I think it's going to be different for everybody. In my case, I still haven't sold the RV. It's parked in a lot in Virginia. That's one of the things on my back burner right now. But that will be done because I don't need it anymore.
Now,
Don, what did you do? What do you have as suggestions for someone
well,
who might move?
the biggest thing I think for people who would say, anybody who has their own apartment or their own place right now, is be realistic about what you really want to take and bring. You want it to be your home. It's going to be your home. And when we moved in, before we moved in, there is a services that you can, they hire it, you can get, which help you plan your pieces and what you think you can take and how crowded would it make it. But some people just don't want to give up anything, and so pretty soon their places are pretty crowded. So I think you should be realistic about that. And if you know what you want, and if you're single and you're happy with a 1-bedroom, some still want a 2-bedroom. I'm sure you. And but you realize what you're going to get. And if you're in a house, we were fortunate. We went from a house to an apartment.
We did part of the work already.
And then so we were pretty real, but we still had to get rid of. Well, we came in and there was carpeting in 2 bedrooms. Didn't need the rugs we had in our thing. So, you selected those kinds of things. So I think that is the biggest thing, because that's what people worry about. The other thing might be, if you're considering your car, a lot of people have, if you can drive, I think you will want to keep a car at least for a while for your mobility, to because there are certain things to see, especially if you're not familiar with the area. because, oh my, there are so many things. However, Knollwood provides trips to so many of these things. But if you want to go down and, and enjoy the mall or go to the museums on your own and capabilities like that, or with a small group here, getting together and go, that's the opportunities in this town. That's one reason why I love to be here for the many years that I have been. There's always something new going on. And so I think those two physical things, psychologically, I don't know. I just think sociability is here. And most people say, hey, that's wonderful.
I think your point is good about the car too, because even though we're in the city, Knollwood is not in like an officey, high-risey area. It's houses. And so it's really easy to get to the grocery store or go to a restaurant without getting into snarled city traffic. Now, if you want to get snarled city traffic, you have more.
Yeah.
But what were you going to say?
I was going to just add that if someone were interested in having a guest room, say they're expecting to have company, kids or grandkids or whatever, it's not really all that necessary, because there are some guest rooms that are rented by our
Management.
what do we call her?
A
The residential manager or
living
some,
director.
yes.
Yeah.
Her name is Whitney.
Yeah.
She can arrange for family members or guests to stay in one of the guest rooms at Knollwood, which is not terribly pricey, I didn't think, compared with hotels in the area. And also, you're not paying for it all the time, even when there's nobody staying in it.
That's
So
true.
that
If
might
you
be
have
one suggestion, is go one bedroom smaller than
Yeah.
you were thinking.
Yeah, if you
If
think
it
you
were-
need a 3-bedroom, go for a 2.
You
If you
could-
think you need a
yes,
2, go
yes.
for a 1.
Yeah.
Exactly, if it's just going to be for guests.
I was just going to mention about, needing a car. You mentioned the grocery store, but there are trips to grocery stores.
And
Mhm.
commissaries.
And the commissaries and other
And the mall.
places, and the shopping that you can be done with on Knollwood vehicles. So that kind of thing is cared for if you'd rather not drive. But whatever, whether you want to have a car here or not, you can make use of those
Sure.
opportunities that Knollwood provides.
Yeah, you could have a car and use the shuttle, or not have a car and use the shuttle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use it if I'm going on a trip with the group. I like going in the bus.
Yeah.
Not having to worry about parking or paying a huge fee for parking.
Or
Yeah.
how to get to the
So
front
even
door.
though I go on my own to things and do things on my own, it's nice to go with the group.
Yeah, it's a little bit more convenient and a little less think about.
Here's a good question. This might be fresh on, this was asked to Sydney. So, and you're brand new here, so this is probably top of mind. You mentioned there's help with many different things at Knollwood. Is there someone to help with tech support, such as my smart TV or tablet?
Yes, there is actually. His name is Barry. I've had a couple of problems like that, and he calls me back right away. And most of the time it's something that I can solve. I just need one of his hints. And I don't know how much he does in the way of like maybe setting up a whole computer or something. I don't know that he does things like that, but he definitely works on the Verizon television reception if that's necessary. And then, of course, it's a city, so you're free to call any contractor for anything that you want and have them come here and do it. My veterinarian comes here to see my kitties. There's a massage therapist I haven't yet had a massage. That's on my back burner too, but she comes here and gives you a massage in your apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Questions keep coming. We get a delivery. Okay, so then we'll start with Don on this one. What are the programs and activities and the events at Knollwood that you enjoy the most?
Well, I do enjoy those theatrical things. I've been doing that through my lifetime. And my life was making films. That's what I did for a living. So until I quit when I retired from doing that, I got on the other side of the camera and performed a little bit.
Oh,
So,
we could use
so,
you on both sides of the camera then.
so that was that thing. We did that, and then we stopped that. But we do try. Fritzy has, and to sort of fill in, not shouldn't say fill in the gap. She's been doing it for years. She's our 102-year-old Marine, and she plays the piano, and she still does. And she has sing-alongs, seasonal sing-alongs, and that's one of the fun things to do. And she'll get a few of us to sing specific songs, and then everybody joins in and so forth. That's good. We have a men's group, which we've come to enjoy. It's only about 5-6 months old, and it's saying, you know, the men should have an opportunity just to sit around to get to know each other, but also to talk about some things. And so not so much politics, but some history, some events, World War II. And then now that COVID, well, anyway, with COVID restrictions somewhat lifted, we went out to the big Air and Space Museum out near Dulles Airport.
Oh,
which-
Udvar-Hazy,
which-
yes.
What do you call it?
Udvar-Hazy, yeah.
Udvar-Hazy.
Yeah, Hazy, yes. Yep.
It's a
Udvar-Hazy.
doozy.
And it's a huge complex with actual airplanes in it.
It's very cool.
And we went there as a group, and that was just so enjoyable. So that's one of the things. Right now, we've restarted the Thursday, Friday night happy hours, and they're growing. People are more funny, and they're just becoming a lot of fun. I don't know, there's just so many things you never know. You look at the bulletin board, we've gone to a baseball games at the Nationals.
Yeah, because they opened that back up after COVID.
Through Knollwood. So those are the kinds of things, I guess, that appeal to me and to my wife. And then the men's group, you know, is mine, and some of the ladies get together and go to dinner, and I know she likes that. So
It's all kinds of things for a variety of interests.
that's right.
I would have to say my favorite is the bus trips to the museums. And we've been to several. I've only been here less than 4 months, and I think I've been 4 or 5 times. And we're going again this Friday to one of the Smithsonian art museums. And there's a woman here who arranges these trips. We go on the bus, but she doesn't just say, okay, you're here, you know, go on in. She sometimes arranges for us to have a private tour. She arranges for us, like she'll read up and educate herself on the exhibit that we're going to see. And as we're driving over there in the bus, she's telling us about the artist. Anyway, she obviously gets a lot of pleasure out of it. Her name is Janie, and she enjoys doing it so much. And then that same joy comes to us. Sometimes she'll have a little printout or something for us to read, but she's obviously an art history buff or an art buff, and so am I. So I really enjoy that.
She's an artist herself.
She's an artist herself. Okay, there you go. A lot of artists here, by the way. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, so talented.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we just had an art
Yeah,
show,
the art show.
and my wife submitted watercolors and I submitted photography. So it's, you know, that's another fun thing to do too.
Mhm.
And then you see, as you say, Sydney, how much talent there actually is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very
quite
impressive art show. I'd like to have a little bit involvement in it next year. I'm not an artist, but I think that we could do a different way of exhibiting it where it can stay up longer.
Mhm.
We have a
Because
professional.
the pieces are award winning, and these are real artists. And there are people that are
Variety
into
of
it too, but it's amazing.
mediums, all kinds of different.
Collage, photography,
Yep.
painting, sculptures, mixed media, it was
Yep.
amazing, just amazing.
And there are classes here and groups here doing those things live, you know,
Mhm.
together here and getting support as needed and wanted.
We also have a very talented resident cellist who has played with different orchestras around the Washington, D.C. area. And she has given, just in the short time I've been here, 3 different concerts, I believe, one of which was with her trio. And it's top notch. We've had the Army. Okay, let me get this straight. The Strolling Strings. We've also had,
There was a guitarist just a couple days
there
ago.
was a guitarist a couple of days ago. I didn't make it to that one.
He was pretty fun. It
And
was-
then there are lectures that in educational, interesting topics. What else? Oh, so much.
Are there opportunities to volunteer here?
Well, you're looking at two of us right now.
Yeah, exactly. You volunteered today.
Yeah, and
But we didn't
actually,
volunteer you.
Sydney is now one of the officers of the Knollwood Residents Association. She was asked to volunteer.
By the committee that you were on.
I was on the committee that nominated her as a volunteer. And yes, there are plenty. This morning downstairs, we had I guess they didn't call it quite a town hall, but it's a monthly meeting. The first Tuesday of the month.
Yeah.
And it's about 10 o'clock and the management does a briefing, but it's served with little breakfast foods. And there were volunteers down there this morning, setting up the tables, making again nice decorations and putting knives and forks, silverware and thing for people to eat and enjoy. And in the hallway, in the concourse, which is a lovely space all by itself, and it's enjoyable just to sit in that. So yes, there are volunteers, and my wife and I have just been involved in a display case for Christmas. And there's one woman who usually does it. Well, we had a special kind of nativity figures, and she became aware of it, and so we wound up putting ours in there. So she's the one that does that, volunteers. So then, as I mentioned, Fritzy with her piano playing, all sorts of volunteer opportunities.
Well, you brought up a good point. You mentioned earlier that Knollwood is a nonprofit, and so there is the resident association, and then the president of the resident association is actually not only the resident association chair, but they're also a voting member on the Knollwood board as well. So residents have voting representation on the board.
One thing I am impressed is from day one, what the transparency of management, how they kept us informed. We're going to do
About
this.
COVID.
No, before that,
Oh.
the things about, this is our schedule based upon what our improvement area, the big things we're going to do, whether it's a new boiler or a new roof, or whether it's decorations. I live on the 4th floor, and they did what they called a 4th floor refresh, because they realized of all the floors, it needed new furnishings, new rugs, all that sort of thing. And of course, COVID caught us right in the middle, and we were half done. It was half done. Professionals were doing it, so that was shut down for a while. And I say it was like living a bit in the war zone with wires hanging, but we had to live with it. But they did that, and we were well informed about that. The other thing is, mentioning COVID, the management with what they did to protect all of us residents, once they realized what was out there, and brought in a lab service to test us and to test the staff, I think every week.
Yes.
And it was just, I think it kept our infections to zero among the residents. Some of the staff came in, if they had it, they had to stay out until they tested negative and so forth. So that was a real savior for a lot of us.
So this question is a little different. It is, how diverse is the community culturally and prior professional backgrounds of the residents? I'm interested in meeting people with different experiences. One thing I'd like to say on that is we do have a bit of a cultural variety here. It could be like people move from different areas of the country. That's one thing. Age range here is very broad, from early 60s to, well, there's no upper limit.
Right, like
But, you know,
102.
Right, but I mean,
102 right now.
the majority of people are in their 70s and early 80s, but there's a whole gang of people in their 60s. there's two generations living here. There are people that are old enough to be your parents.
Yes.
And but there are also our religious diversity. There is some ethnic diversity. There's male and female diversity that they didn't used to be. But there are military, there are government, there are civilians. There are people that might have been didn't work outside the home, but maybe raised children. You know, there are nurses, there are educators here. What would you two add about people with different experiences and cultural?
Well, my mother, had she still been alive, was Department of State, and she would have qualified to live here because of that. She was a high-level diplomat overseas, and I would have qualified being her daughter to live here, but I didn't need her coattails because I'm an Air Force nurse from the Air Force Nurse Corps.
But civilians can live here too.
Yeah,
government.
I was
Yeah.
just, I was just
There
gonna
are
say,
some civilians.
yeah, a number of civilians. In fact, John Higgins was with one of the
He
press
was a journalist.
journalists. I think he was with UPI or AP or something like that. And he talks about how he used to sit up in the press briefings in the White House or up in the Capitol. And one day he'd be doing that, and the next day he'd be jogging past it, and because he's a jogger, and now he's a walker. And then we have some surgeons who've come in,
Quite a
some
few.
medical people who have absolutely no military connection, but you know they're since you, as you say, it's open to really the civilians now. And Jane McLeish, who is really the I would say botanist or gardener or arborist or whatever you want to call it.
She likes to call herself a garden designer, but she's like a landscape architect.
She's a master gardener.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no,
so
but she's also a landscape
and she's
architect.
contributing so
Yes.
much to talk about volunteer.
Yeah.
She's contributing so much to the place, and so it is. You go to the where you from, people where you from. Well, a lot of them are saying, well, I used to live 3 blocks away. Somebody says, well, I used to live in Los Angeles or in New Orleans or something like that. One of the new surgeons lived in Cape Cod.
Or you lived all over the place.
11 states and now the District of Columbia. And I think this is it, but we'll see. It's a good home base. It's a very good home base for traveling. There's a lot of great access to not just the airports, which are wonderful, but I'm going up to Boston on the train for Christmas. And I just love that I can go to this station, get on a train at 10 o'clock at night, go to sleep in my little bunk and wake up in Boston.
It's really nice.
It's a good place to travel from.
Yeah. It is. And we have a good number of residents who have, secondary homes.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, so,
Did you ever think about having your RV as a vacation rental by owner?
Yeah, well, we
People do that. They
when,
do. I've
when
thought-
we first moved in here, we still had our home in Mexico.
Oh.
We owned a home in San Miguel de Allende.
Oh,
And so, but the time had come, it was 20, we had been there, had owned it 20 years, had been going there every winter for 25 years. And so realizing it's one of the reasons we moved in, because Barbara's travel times were diminishing.
Yeah.
So I sold it, but other people, John, the journalist, he and his wife go up to their place in Michigan in the summer. So yeah, and people just
One person goes to Italy every summer.
Mhm.
Another person goes to Maine every summer.
Yep,
Yeah.
for like the whole summer.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention, was the about the chapel
Mhm.
that's
Oh.
here. It's a lovely little space. It's been here, I think, from the beginning. I think it was built when the place was built, and they have Catholic and Protestant services
Mhm.
every weekend.
Yep.
Catholics have mass on Saturday afternoon,
Mhm.
4 o'clock, and then the Protestant services are Sunday evening. And it's used for other things, for memorial services for when people have died and their families would want to have a memorial here. And it's quite a nice asset. It's just it's a little nice touch extra, which you don't have to wonder if you want some spiritual and the officials, the service, the priests or the ministers are available. You know, would welcome contact if it was desired.
Can I say a little bit more about the medical?
Yep.
So a lot of the military people here retired from the military, so they are patients of the Walter Reed Hospital. There is transportation back and forth every day to Walter Reed. Well, I don't know about weekends, but
Weekdays. because
for
doctors-
appointments.
Yeah, doctors don't do appointments.
I did not retire. I served my 4 years, and that was the end of my service. But I used the Veterans Administration. And it's a very fine hospital with access through their referral program to any of the fine healthcare that there is in Washington. So that is another option for people.
It
for
is.
people
And if
like me.
people are moving from far away like you did, another option is John Hopkins has Sibley Hospital, and Knollwood also provides transportation there for medical appointments.
Yep.
And I was going to say that, you know, if you're, Barbara and I, even though, well, because I was a reservist during my active duty in the reserve, and until I reached 60, 65, we did not have access to what is now called Walter Reed and the military medicine, let's call it that, for government. So we have our own doctors that we've had, both of us for years. And right within about 2.5 miles, we were over there this morning. Barbara had an eye doctor's appointment. And we still use the doctor that she's used all these years. And at Friendship Heights is a metro station, and therefore it is a lot of buildings, you know,
Offices.
office buildings that I'm trying to say. And there are
Grocery stores.
all sorts of medical opportunities there as needed.
Yeah.
So that's if you're a civilian and you're wondering about that, there's no shortage.
And the metros too are nice. You mentioned transportation earlier, you know, both of you, but there's always hubs around every metro station.
And metro is a wonderful thing. Getting to it, if I can just say, I just wish we were a little closer to metro, but you can't have everything. And because in our apartment in Friendship Heights, we used to walk to metro.
Yeah.
And going to a baseball game was a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have we not talked about, or what have people not asked you about that you think might be important to viewers thinking about Knollwood or this type of community?
It's always a tough question.
Well, I don't know. I guess I would say, no, there's always people, there's always elements that you think about could be improved, I guess. You think about, you're like, well, the other thing is survey that was done to find out how did people feel about this and how about that. It was done by an outside organization. And we all wrote in. And one of the things they commented on was food. And before they announce anything, they say, we have done this for innumerable retirement communities. And everybody always says we should have better food. But, you know, food can, you know, there's a variety. And so if there's one day of vegetarian meals in the evening, and the opportunity for vegetarian meals are always there too. We have a lovely salad bar,
That's
and
my favorite.
we have a new chef, our general manager. He's bringing new foods in, and you know, you get things evolve. And so we're happy, you know, that they provide us our dinners all the time. We're relying on them. And,
Well, there is one thing too for viewers to know, if they're first-time viewers, that some communities require people to dine at the community, but Knollwood leaves it optional. So,
and there's no prepaid plan
right.
where you have invested X dollars in meals and you might not use it or whatever. So it's pay as you go.
Mhm.
As you go, and prices are beyond reasonable. We have two chefs, actually, I just want to say, not to correct you, but our chef who manages the entire operation he's a chef, and then there's also a chef in the kitchen. And they do the most amazing things. They do, there are some days of the, couple of days of the month where they do preparation in front of you. So they'll set up a station and cook right there. They have at times shared some of their, passed forward some of their wonderful produce prices and fresh produce, and I'll offer it in a farmer's market sort of setting where we can go down and buy some produce for our homes, or also pre-prepared meals. So all the prep is done, the vegetables are chopped, and the meat is already cooked, and you can put it all in a skillet and have it all finished in about 3 or 4 minutes. And it's delicious. I've tried it a couple of times. What else? They do special events. We haven't even talked about the Knoll House. The Knoll House was the original home on this estate before they started building apartments, and it is now open for us to use. And there's a beautiful library over there with the most comfortable chair in the world, where you can just go and pull a book off the shelf and read a short story or something. But during the summer, we had dinners prepared for us on the back patio, and if you would have to reserve it because it was limited seating, but they did all that as a preparation show.
Yeah.
And those were really lovely, good meals. Like being in a very fine restaurant.
Yeah, it is meant to be our own at-home fine dining experience, which is really, really great. And I know they do other things as well. A couple of summers ago, they did a fiesta in the Founder's Garden. So a lot of the different servers brought specific recipes from their home countries, and they had a mariachi band. That was really fun.
We have a lot of Latin people whose home countries are in Latin America. And so we had a big Cinco de Mayo celebration outdoors, and with the music
Yep.
and so forth, and appropriate fresh home cooked
Yeah.
Latin food. Yes,
Yeah.
it's things like that. We just had a Halloween party, and it's since COVID, things are a little more sedate, not as wild costumes, but that will come again.
It will.
I mean, it's just there's so much that you can, do.
What if you don't feel like doing something?
You don't have to do anything. You don't have. That's the other thing.
Just hang out. You don't even have to get out of your pajamas. You can watch movies all day.
And you can send to the kitchen if you want to have your food brought.
Yeah, that's true. You can get delivery or carry out.
It costs you a little to do that. I was just going to mention the price. An evening meal is $6.19, and that includes soup or salad, the entree, 2 sides, and a dessert,
And a roll.
and a
And a
roll if you
drink.
wish, and a drink. $6.19.
Yeah, you can't
I know.
beat that.
You can't beat that.
That's the daily special, right?
Mhm.
Every day.
The
Every
daily
day.
special.
And lunch,
But other things too.
and lunch, which covers the same amount of food, is $3.95.
Yep.
So I'd have my big meal at lunch.
Yeah, it's quite amazing.
So it really is, it's wonderful. That was one of the things that I mentioned, one of the places we went to, he said, I think it was $800 a month for the food. And they said, and at the end of the month, if you haven't used it up, you can invite your friends in. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not good.
No, you don't want to feel like you're paying for something that you're not utilizing. And we have some residents here who enjoy the dining room a lot, and others who cook every meal for themselves. So it's nice to give the residents the choice.
Yeah, I met with somebody yesterday who by profession is a nurse and is a nurse educator, and her areas of specialty, one of which is diabetes. And she found herself to be pre-diabetic a couple of years ago. So she was very happy to learn that we didn't have a dining plan, that it was all optional, because she likes to prepare everything, and she is no longer pre-diabetic, and her husband is choosing, well, I guess he gets to eat what she makes, but, allows more flexibility. So they were happy to hear that the dining is optional, so that they can probably stick with, the recipes that she started making in the last few years.
Yeah, food was a big concern for me. One thing, I love food. I've done a lot of cooking in my life for big numbers of people, Thanksgiving dinners for 24 and parties at my home all the time. I love entertaining. But now I still have a fully equipped kitchen. It's very small. The footprint is small, but everything I need is in there if I wanted to make a meal. But there's really no reason to. I think it's more expensive to cook for yourself than it is to just find something nice downstairs.
Yeah.
The question.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
They're keeping an eye out for you, John.
Oh,
yes.
We both have
Yes.
somewhere we have to do that.
Yes, these residents are very busy, so their next scheduled event or activity is coming up shortly.
We didn't talk about pets. One of the volunteer things I did here when I first arrived is start talking about forming a group of pet owners. And we did that finally. We had our preliminary meeting, and so now we have a list of people who have pets, may occasionally need help with their pets, are willing to help other people with their pets, or some people who might need to walk a dog and they're having a bad day and they just don't feel well. They can call any number of people on this list. Can you run by and take my dog out for a walk? Sure. But you could still say, I'm sorry, I can't do that today, I'm busy. It's just, it's a group that didn't exist and now does.
That's good.
So,
It is good, and that's another great thing too. If there is something missing here, like a wine club or a group of, to help you with your pet if you need it, you can start that.
They just started a poker club.
yes,
Yes.
they're going to teach us to play poker.
Yes.
And there is a bridge club.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
several.
and so, the
There's a
poker thing, I think.
there's a billiards group
Billiards
on
group.
Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't even know where the billiards table is. I
Downstairs.
finally found the swimming pool.
Yeah, but that's true. The library, and there are a lot of nice places to explore.
There are.
I'll tell you one more thing. A few of my friends thought that I was too young to move to a place like this. And I said, well, that's easy for you to say because you have 3 kids and a spouse. I have no children and no spouse, and was attempting to be proactive about the last part of my life, however long it lasts. But I was telling one friend about it, and he said, oh my gosh, Sydney, that sounds great. It's like college for old people.
Well, let me
And
just,
I said, yes.
well, let me just say, for us old folks, my wife and I are in our 90s.
No, you're not.
It keeps us young being here.
Oh, maybe
So-
I'll be around for 20 more years.
Yes, exactly.
And on that note, I do have to leave because
Thank
my
you.
wife is coming back from her rehab.
Yeah.
And I have to be there.
It's
to help
important.
take care.
Yes, it's important
And I
that you're
think we
there.
might be.
Yeah, we'll be wrapping up.
And folks, please, if you haven't come to visit us, please do. I think the proof is in the pudding.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the
Dawn.
opportunity, and I enjoyed, I hope you enjoyed.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, John.
I know, you're good. All right.
So I think for those of you still watching and with us, thank you for tuning in today. What we're gonna do is just kind of show you where the little last of one more slide
the
that will
last
pop up
slide.
on the screen. If you have questions on Knollwood, you can call us. I guess we should probably put our phone number up there next time, huh?
Next time.
Yeah,
I
but.
will take
our
her to
phone number-
lunch.
Yes,
Yes,
Sydney
you
will
can
take you
come
to
here.
lunch.
On me,
On
yeah.
Carol Ann.
Yes, you can come for lunch. You know, it's really good to meet people who live here in person. And even with, you know, like Sydney said, without us, because your questions, you may have some private questions you want to ask. Instead of asking them in front of somebody who works here. But yeah, if you haven't had any information on Knollwood and you might want to know, you know, this type of webinar, we don't talk about pricing or things like that. We do that mostly at in-person meetings, but once in a while on a webinar. But you can also come in and call us up and set up a time. We don't just show up at Knollwood because you do have to have an appointment to come here. Or we can also send you a packet in the mail. You can come and take a tour in person, or you can come in, we can arrange for you to meet people who live here in person.
Yeah.
So thank you. It's knollwoodcommunity.org is our website, and it's right there on the screen. So thank you, Sydney.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Sydney.
It was my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Alright,
And
yes, thanks so much for watching and joining us today.
thanks for your questions. There were some great questions today.
Months.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.